Hi, this is Rick Frederick. I'm reviewing a paper by Branaman and Gottlieb that concerns, the title is Ethical and Legal Considerations for Treatment of Alleged Victims. When does it become witness tampering? What is the takeaway from the article? It's a review of existing professional standards when children who may have been sexually abused enter therapy. So even that sort of statement is bound to create some emotional response in some people. They don't like to hear the words may have been victims. They're convinced that the children have been victims. So what do Branaman and Gottlieb emphasize? They emphasize that there is a clinical role for therapists, there's a forensic role. And one of the forensic roles is to safeguard procedural fairness to the person accused of sexual abuse. And of course, this often creates an emotional response in some people, which is, who cares about them? Forget them. I have a child here who has been injured. My responsibility is to treat this child. And Branaman and Gottlieb argue maybe you shouldn't be the person doing the therapy for this child, because there are forensic issues whether or not the therapist is aware of them. And it's all well and good. We all understand the emotional response of forget the accused, as if they were guilty. And of course, in our legal system, the presumption is that they are not guilty, and that there is a trial yet to come. And if this child is going to testify in a trial of the accused, that the accused has to have a fair trial. And that means that the therapist can't be doing things that change the reliability of what the child is going to testify about. So Branaman and Gottlieb wrote this paper because they think that some therapists may not be sensitive to these issues, and that they may do things in therapy that intrude into the defendant's rights. So the standard sort of thing is when a child alleges abuse, they get an interview, and that person has probably had some training in conducting an interview. There's legitimate questions about the reliability and validity of their interviewing techniques and what model they're following, and hopefully these things are videotaped so that they can be reviewed for accuracy. And the Child Advocacy Center is in a legitimate role of gathering information that may be used in prosecution. But what will then happen is that the child may enter into a therapeutic relationship, which is entirely appropriate. It's very understandable. You have somebody who's alleging abuse, and if we just assume that abuse happens, then it's understandable that the child would have some unsettled emotions that could be quite drastic, that require effective treatment. So it's common for children to be seen by compassionate, caring individuals. What Branaman and Gottlieb argue is that they need to stop and think about whether there are forensic aspects to taking care of this child, and how therapy might be guided by those principles. So it's also true that some counseling may continue to be used to serve the purpose of gathering legally relevant information. So it may be that the police come, or a detective comes and says, I want to use you, the therapist, to be involved in this case, or I want to use your notes. I want to see what information the child has told you. It may be that some therapists see one of their roles is to ensure the accuracy of the story that the child tells, and interviews about what the child alleges may serve to change. The memory's constructive, and there's no way around it. That is the nature of memory. So it's very, very difficult to have the child talk about what happened to them without changing their memory in the process. And they want to talk about their experiences, and we understand that. But what is a common therapeutic technique is the process of, well, what happened next? What happened next? And what Branaman Gottlieb argue is that process influences memory, changes memory in ways that may not be anticipated or cannot be anticipated. So they argue that therapy really should be focused on symptom reduction and symptom management instead of this reliving of the incident as a therapeutic technique. So they may argue, or they do argue, that it's unethical to advocate for the accuracy, that is not a legitimate goal of therapy when you're doing therapy with somebody who is a potential witness. And one of the things is source monitoring errors, how children believe things and how they came to believe them, their beliefs about why they believe what they do and where they learned information may actually be affected by how therapists do therapy. Therapy, as usual, may be harmful not to the child, but to the role that the child is going to play in the prosecution of somebody who is accused of a sexual crime. So therapy, as usual, may be harmful to the context of pending litigation. So let me just say that there is a different viewpoint that we will address in another PowerPoint. Thank you.